Anushka and Nick are now here to talk about today's headlines. Good morning to you both. Starting with a really sad story, actually, this morning. A friend of the show, Dave Myers of Hairy Bikers, has very sadly passed away. That's kind of taken all of our breath away
really
this morning, hasn't it?
We've just found out one half, of course, of the Hairy Bikers. He was aged 66. Quite shocking, because such a ball of energy.
Such a huge character. Anybody that knows him, anybody that's worked on this show, he bounces in, the ball of positivity. And I suppose just really, really sad news to hear this morning, Nick.
Well, the incredible thing was the energy that he brought. Who would have thought, with the great respect to all the other TV chefs, that he could bring such entertainment and humour to sometimes rather mundane recipes?
Always my
But it
favourite.
was his sheer energy and positivity, and, of course, the relationship, that fantastic, which, you know, TV producers dream of, that you're going to find two people, two women, whatever, and it just burnt through, didn't it? Whatever they did. So we all knew he'd, you know, sadly not been well. So it is a very, very sad day. One of the bright lights there.
Yeah, and on their friendship, I saw Si was by his side when he passed.
Yeah,
Just
he was.
heartbreaking.
There's a statement from Simon. Most of you will know Dave has been fighting cancer for the past couple of years. Last night, on the 28th of February, with Lily, Dave's wife, his family, close friend, David and myself, all by his side, he passed away peacefully at home. All who knew Dave are devastated at his passing. I mean, it really is quite sad. It really is quite sad.
Yes.
He's in the great highway in the skies now.
Absolutely,
on his bike.
and we have to say we're thinking of course, Si, his family, and his
children.
wife and children today as well. Right, we're going to continue with an update on the Sarah Everard inquiry. This has pretty much happened whilst we've been on air. Anushka, I know that you're aware of all the latest of this. Do you want to tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, so this inquiry has been going on for 2 years to look at what went wrong in this case. Wayne Couzens was a serving police officer for the Met Police when he picked Sarah Everard up off the street, persuaded her to get into the back of his car because he was a police officer, he had his badge, and as we know, took her and murdered her. And after 2 years, the findings are he should never have been a police officer. There were a series of red flags that were missed, both by Kent Police and by the Met Police. He had shown extreme porn to colleagues, and he had even indecently exposed himself on 3 occasions, and yet he was a serving police officer. One of those incidents was just days before he picked Sarah Everard up. There's some really moving comments from his family who say from her family who say they are absolutely haunted every day by her loss, and he should never have got into that position in the first place.
Absolutely,
you know, that is an entrusted position. Everyone, women walking down the street, as she was, from a friend's house to a house, should be able to trust the police. And so many police officers do an amazing job, and it is absolutely harrowing that he was able to have that job.
Her family have just released a statement, and they said, "We believe that Sarah died because he was a police officer. She would never have gotten into the car of a stranger."
I mean, that says it all, doesn't it?
It does, and indeed the court heard that at the time, and I think you're absolutely right, as Anushka says, it was his warrant card, and what are you going to do if someone gives you a warrant? I mean, there are now new practices in place, and we probably should say the new-ish commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, this did not happen, it would say he's doing everything he can. He would point to improved vetting procedures. But, Anushka, this is a man who had a history of sexual crimes, shall we say, in Kent Force before he ever got to the Met. How he managed to go. And again, as you rightly say, exposing himself in hamburger restaurants, and he's still staying in position. There was a bit of a culture of, oh, let's look the other way because, you know, he's one of us. Again, Sir Mark Rowley would say he's determined to root that out. You should feel safe, even if he's a mate, even if you've been a serving officer together for 20 years. If a bloke or a woman is doing that, you've got to call them out. Sir Mark would point to that, so we probably just need to get that out there.
What does the admission mean from the Met Police for the department? What does that mean now?
What it means is that they'll need to put in new review procedures. What it means is that, again, they would point to the fact, and let's hope it's true, they would say now he'd never get in the force. Right. They would say, we are... And we'd probably need to say, Kent might say, we would have said, but anyway, let's refer to the Met, because this is the inquiry. They would say, we now have measures in place. I won't even put his name out, because I know it offends people when they hear his name. My listeners get very angry, because, you know, we remember him more than we remember Sarah.
Absolutely.
So this man would not be a cop, is what the Met would say, because of this appalling tragedy which has now been acted, is what they would say.
But let's just be clear, and I'm sure they are putting those things in place, But there have been
still
huge,
terrible.
big cultural problems with the police, not only this, other things, and they have to show that those things have changed. The vetting procedures here very, very badly failed. And the reason there was this absolute outpouring in the wake of Sarah Everard's death, we saw women coming together, protesting what had happened, is because how could this happen? How could someone who is in that trusted position do this to someone? And, you know, I think... yes, they will say, and they rightly should say, that they are doing these things. They have to show that they are doing them, because this is a very damning long report.
And they're not alone. You remember the tragic case of the two Nottingham University students who were murdered. We had officers there WhatsApping and exchanging pictures with the Nottinghamshire force. So there is still a culture that has to be met absolutely head-on. Something strange with these men and sometimes women who go into this job that needs to be tackled.
It's one of the issues always when we're trying to get change in big corporations, big institutions. It just always seems to take so long. Something shocking happens. Why is it not just done tomorrow, from now on, this is what's going to happen?
Well, in the Met, you're talking about an organisation that's got tens of thousands of... But by the way, I'm not offering excuses.
No.
But you're talking about an organisation, so it is a bit of a supertanker.
Yeah.
And there's got to be the will from everybody. Everyone has got to sign up to it. So all the superintendents and those ranks have to absolutely put this to the top of the list, and that's why it might be taken up. But I'm not defending them.
No, of course not. No, of course not. We all know it. We all realise that.
Yeah.
OK, look, please stay with us.
OK.
Still to come, much more of the guys are staying with us to discuss today's top story.